Dan, do you think that's why the AI infrastructure names, chips, memory are rising today?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to last week, I think is the best way to view this. So last week, if you look at four of the big hyperscalers, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Meta, they were all down 4% on average last week with the market up. And don't forget, Oracle was down about 14% last week because they had that huge CapEx guide. Then you throw on top of that the SpaceX IPO, and if you're participating in that, you're listening to Elon Musk saying, we're going to have to spend hundreds of billions of dollars to achieve our goals. Right. The SOX last week was up 9%. So you were selling the hyperscalers down, but you were buying where they were spending all this money, which is the semiconductor companies. And so I think that just gets back to go to where the money is being spent, not the guys who are spending the money because they've got cash flow concerns or having to raise capital to fund that spending.
Right. Although, look at SpaceX day 2. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I wrote about it this weekend, right? Russell added SpaceX, said they were going to add SpaceX to their indices on June 26th. The next one will be the MSCI. That can happen in about 10 trading days after the IPO. And then the NASDAQ 100 can add it about 15 days after the IPO. So it's going to be really hard to be negative on this name until you at least get out to the NASDAQ 100 ad. After that, then things like valuation, et cetera, are going to matter. But as you know, we learned during the meme stock craze, right? Valuations can always go much higher than you ever imagined. But eventually they do normalize out. And so I think, you know, anybody who wants to be negative on this until that NASDAQ 100 ad happens, that's not a very smart idea.
Right. So we'll see mid-July maybe where we are, if it's a little bit of that effect, buy the rumor, sell the fact, or however. What about the business? If the CapEx plans, if you hear what Elon Musk is saying and think about where all that spend is going, again, we've had analysts doubling their price targets on Western Digital today. I mean, we'll talk about that in Power Lunch. Is that everyone wants to know when that portion of the chase is over? And does it still have a little bit more room to run, a lot more room to run? When do we start moving on from the chip stocks to something else?
Well, I don't think you can until you get to anniversarying when you had agentic AI show up. So if you go back and you think, well, when did that really kick off? OpenClaw got formalized on January 30th. And what agentic AI does is it means you need 10 to 100 times more tokens to do all of these, you know, big tasks versus just asking a chat-based question to an AI, right? So if you have your AI go out and say, hey, you know, book me tickets, get me a hotel room, get me a car, figure out what sites to see when I go on vacation, and, you know, put this all together in an itinerary and email it to me in Word. That'll take 10 to 100 times more tokens than if you just ask your chat-based AI, hey, what are good places to see when I go on vacation at this place, right? So that'll take at least a year, I think, so you get to early next year before you put in enough capacity and you anniversary this, and then there's a real problem. So I think this has a lot more room to run. And don't forget, valuations, like if you look at Tesla and you want to be optimistic and you say, hey, add $26 billion in revenues to what, because of the Google deal for $11 billion and Anthropic deal for $15 billion that they announced, you go, well, yeah, that may be all true, but you still got coming up later the fact that, you know, you have Nvidia and other companies that are trading actually at reasonable valuations on the semi side, where you can buy an Nvidia at just above a market multiple, but it's growing revenues at 80%. Whereas you look at a SpaceX and you say, hey, you know, this thing, even if you want to be optimistic, it's trading at close to 45 times revenues, which is obviously pretty expensive.
It's incredible. This market is just absolutely incredible. I think the biggest thing for me was exactly what you were just referring to, is you have the yield still sitting at 4.45 in a 10-year, and equities market is completely brushing that aside. And previously, you guys were talking about going into the BOJ, and the yen sitting around 160, and these were always in the past a concern for the markets, but the markets are looking past that. I mean, if anything, today the biggest story of the day was, okay, we come to a peace deal, and the peace deal will ease inflationary pressures globally, correct? And the bond market did not react to it. But again, the equities market is just going vertical. I mean, as Sherry was saying, look at the Korean market and what these memory names are doing. This is exactly what we're seeing out of the U.S. I saw, I work on a trading desk and we run risk, and we saw a tons of chase in these memory names again today in the Microns of the world, Western Dave, Seagate, and the SanDisk. I think the chase really is a FOMO trade, and people are still thinking that they may be missing this trade when it starts going vertical. But again, I'm usually in the past when I speak about markets and markets go this vertical, I'm usually negative. But as long as you have these rotations, market doesn't go down. The market in general is not at a very overbought levels anymore. They've kind of eased. The semis have eased, S&P has eased, Nasdaq has eased. The AII spread has come off. Greed and fear is at fear territory, not at greed territory. VIX has completely normalized. At these levels, even with this move that we have today, the risk is still to the upside. I mean, and I think today, and I wrote it on my piece, that the short indices, specifically, if you look at the Goldman's most shorted basket today, was up almost 4.5%. So it shows a lot of short squeeze within the market again.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. I caught Mohammed Al-Aryan speaking to our colleagues in the US earlier, and they were having a really interesting debate about just the amount of money that is in these markets right now and getting into the liquidity conversation, especially with the SpaceX IPO. What's your read on this retail mania?
The retail, well, Manisha, the retail mania is for real. I mean, the one thing that I've always been concerned about, and I've been trading risk for a little bit over 30 years, is leverage. And look at these leverage ETFs. I mean, they're becoming a massive part of the volume daily that we see. Like, for example, today, around 2 p.m., and this is 2 hours before the market closed, when we looked at the leverage inverse ETF daily rebound, it was almost 18 billion to buy, with tech being almost 16 billion of it. I mean, it's just the proportion of levered ETF chase that we're seeing among retail going to these levered ETF is preposterous. And that's always a concern to me. And leverage has always been a concern to me. And if you look at last week, the ETF volume just exploded. I mean, we had something that we have never seen before. But going back to your question when it comes to SpaceX, we are seeing a lot of retail chase. We are seeing a lot of FOMO. We are seeing tons of people feeling that this is going to be a next, $3 trillion company, and they feel like they're missing the boat. But I have to say, the flows today on my desk were better sellers. We sold quite a bit today among bigger institutions. I saw fresh shorts coming back in this name today. But I have to say the shorts were around the 170, 175 level, and the stock closed at near day's high. So we have to see how this thing pans out, but people feel like maybe this is short term.
So would you agree? Because I think a lot of folks tend to have this consensus that, yes, valuation is high, but this is Elon Musk. Like, you cannot rule out the guy. Just buy the stock, don't look at the stock for the next 5 years, that kind of thing. How much of this kind of thinking actually works? Because, again, it's Elon Musk.
Well, I think investors need to be careful. I mean, he's clearly done some transformative things. He will be a historic figure. He's the wealthiest guy in the world. No one can challenge those things. But there is a big question here, and that is, how high is investor exuberance going to drive prices, and how long will it last? Because retail investors bought $100 billion in shares. And you got to ask the question, are some of them going to get panicky if SpaceX misses a few quarters? Because this stuff is not easy to do. Just look at Blue Origin. One of their spacecraft just blew up earlier this day, last week. And now he's moving into the world of AI. And I would dare say, it's one thing to compete with old world companies like Ford and GM in the auto space, or McDonnell Douglas and Grumman in the space sector, but competing with Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, that is a much steeper hill to climb. We'll see if he can do it.
Yeah, we certainly will see, Steve. Okay, I have to admit, I am trying to understand the way the market has reacted to this IPO. Now, on the face of it, on the headlines, and you talk about you know Elon Musk, you have invested in his companies before, you were on the board of Tesla, so clearly you see something. But when you would go into the history, Tesla benefited from a lot of taxpayer money. It benefited from subsidies. And I'm not saying it's the same story for SpaceX. But there's two things here that interest me. One is I'm struggling with how transparent the numbers are. This is a hugely costly business. And like you said, it takes for one thing to go wrong to cause a cascade of problems. So help me understand that risk element part of this, because now you're into there's an IPO, you got to make sure the business is thriving, and you can't always rely on public money or subsidies.
No, look, that's exactly right. And I think there's a lot of risk with this company. I did not invest personally. If you ask the question, should people invest in Musk, you look at it and say, look, he's got a stunning track record. He's got, as an entrepreneur, a pretty good track record of seeing the future. But if you wind this back to the multiples make sense, it's 100x revenue multiple. If you're an investor, certainly a one later in your life, you may not want to be something in this speculative. It's trading at 100x multiple. When you compare that with Anthropic at 9x or Nvidia, the most valuable company in the world, arguably the best run company in the world, at a 12.9x multiple, 100x is pretty frothy stuff. But you got to give the guy credit, not just for his track record, but if you look at SpaceX as a really three companies here, a rocket launch company, they're launching over half of all launches in the world, more than every other company combined. Starlink, the leader, providing 70% of US satellite broadband. And then you get to XAI. Now, that could be the most valuable part of the whole equation, but it's facing huge competition, as I said, from Google, Anthropic, and so on. The punchline for me is I think Musk and SpaceX need to land two of these three moonshots to really get above that $2 trillion market part. Let's see if they can do it. It's not going to be easy, but people have lost a lot of money betting against him.
So you sold quite a bit today. What was really the main driver of that decision? Do you think the market is sort of milking too much of this mentality that buy the dip has worked for many years? And President Trump, well, the combo of Trump and Warsh will not kill markets.
Well, listen, Sherry, you're completely right. I mean, the buy the dip mentality has remained. And I mean, look at the global tech funds last week, right? They posted another 12.3 billion inflows. This is about 3 billion went to levered ETFs. So if you look at this and look at what we have seen as far as what the short indices have been representing, and also people keep using this excuse of cash on asylum, which I think is a terrible excuse. People have used this narrative for so many years and has never been the case. My point is that, yes, the buy the dip mentality has remained. I think leverage is the reason that we move the way we do. I mean, Micron and AMD, like I just want to go back to this and just point this thing out. I mean, we were a year ago in the same category of Starbucks and Deere, and now we're talking about market caps that are bigger than Oracle, Bank of America, and J&J, right? And these stocks are moving 7 to 8 to 10% a day, right? If this is not leveraged, then I don't know what it is. This is all that you're seeing. And the thing is, Sherry, that people don't talk about, and Manisha, is that the triple levered single stock ETFs have options. So it's leverage on top of leverage now that people trade.
Do you think that could be the source, the origin of some pain likely come through? Because yes. I think we touched on this a long time ago, Farzan, that when retail starts piling up, that's never a good sign for the markets.
Never. You're 100% correct. It's never a good sign, but the market's not that overbought at these levels that makes me concerned, to be perfectly honest with you. The other thing is for me is seasonality. Don't forget we're going into the strongest seasonal period for Nasdaq, as we're going to end of June into July. And more importantly, a big gauge has been positioning. A position is not that high, unfortunately. Usually you need position to be in a 99% on the tech, and there was a lot of selling in tech based on the PB data that I saw today. So people have unwound quite a bit. So it's not that overbought. And the CTAs and all the systematics are now tilted to buy the market. So there are a little bit of backdrop to this market that's going to give us a little bit of an underlying bid. But Sherry, you're 100% correct. I think my biggest concern has always been leverage and this kind of a fraud within retail. I looked at it today. Retail volume was high, but at the same time, there was no stop to this market. And I think now with Dow and Russell making new all-time highs, I won't be surprised. The first S&P and Nasdaq will also retest their new highs, and we're gonna then see a little bit more squeeze before we start giving back a little bit. But again, SOXX, this is the semi ETF, is up over 100% year to date now.